and I was granted what is called in our church a release, which is basically the equivalent of a divorce. It was a very, very hard conversation, hard in meaning heartbreaking, because this is not what I wanted to do. This is not what I intended when I married Kody. Back in 2014, Kody and I did do a legal divorce. And for me, that whole process was purely for the fact that he could then marry Robyn legally and then adopt.
Even if Mary Brown isn't my favorite, nobody should have to suffer the same kind of humiliation that Kody did to her. The fact that she needed a man to inform her that her spouse has completely disowned, abandoned, and mistreated her is incredibly pitiful. Let's not fool ourselves. Mary needs to think about therapy at this point, ideally a nice, long session. Ever since Robyn entered their lives, Kody has longed for this. He has fondly remembered leaving behind all of his previous wives, including the 13 original kids, who all eagerly participated in their upbringing. The sob tale of how no one accepted Robyn and her children has completely bored me. I recently saw videos of Christine and Janelle claiming to have told Robyn that her children were welcome to stay at their house at all times, just like all the other children. Welcome back to the TLC flicks. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. The worst part is that Robyn never actually sent them through those doors. They are unable to refute what we all saw. Recall the occasion when she chastised one of Janelle's lads for consuming an excessive amount of her priceless food. Warning, there will be spoilers ahead. His mother most likely paid for it because Robyn was never really wealthy. Let's also discuss the marriage to Robyn and the formal divorce from Mary. It was much more about establishing Kody and Robyn's friendship than it was about adopting her children. One of the most bizarre things I've ever seen is the sketch she created of Kody holding her infant children, removing their real father from their life in a classic Robyn move. Back then, it was obvious to me that she would stop at nothing to obtain Kody, and yeah, the melted wedding ring. Rewatching the first episode revealed, surprise, that Kody's finger did not have a wedding ring on it. He was busy lying to the public about falling in love with his previous 3 wives, having already cast aside his entire family for Robyn. Robyn was the only person he ever really fell in love with, and she has made the most of that. What if Mary's request was turned down by the cult? They had not operated for years. Singing the same old song, Kody keeps saying he never loved her and that he wishes she would just go on. The brief entreaty from Robyn to Mary to stay was merely a desperate attempt to hang on to her paycheck. Christine and Chanel, however, read the writing on the wall and politely packed up and moved away. They were at least sensible enough to know when to head out. Thus, Mykelti Brown, Sister Wives, star Christine's daughter, is quickly growing in popularity. Who would have guessed that she would have shared some incredibly insightful views in her most recent interview? Really, in all of the insanity, she might be the voice of reason. She brought up the fact that Kody has never really cared to enter his kids' worlds as they've grown up in their Patreon video for episode 4. No. Why would he do that instead? He always thought they would jump right into his tiny realm. Do you recall those unending film marathons? Yes, whenever Kody visited, they would always watch his favorite movies. But as soon as the kids started pursuing their own interests, Kody had none of it. It's as if he thought his whims were the center of the universe and that any divergence from this would be too much for his fragile ego. It seems like Kody never developed past the age of 12. The fact that he chose to live much of his life with his wife, who treats him like the king of a toddler's playroom, is also telling. He never realized how common it is for children to wish to spend the holidays with the family of their spouses. No. Every absence felt like a personal betrayal to him, as if he had been turned down for the playdate of a lifetime as a toddler. Not to be overlooked is the fact that Kody appears to be constantly competing with his own kids. Hey, have a peek at me. I have more attractive looks. I'm a better wrestler. I know so much more. Who the hell is he trying to impress, really? With this one, the delusion is intense as he strives mightily to surpass them. It's a very pitiful dynamic, akin to witnessing an adult guy attempt to outsmart a group of children at his own game. Kody is essentially a walking toddler. He throws tantrums, is fussy about his meals, and makes absurd demands. His dramatic meltdowns give the impression that the world is ending, even though they are not met. He is impetuous and lives on turbulence. He has not yet learned how to appreciate a peaceful moment. Yes, you certainly do. To be honest, I believe that Kelty became a little enamored with the thought of becoming her dad's favorite for the first time. But let's face it, it won't be long before she understands that in order to keep up any sort of relationship with him, she will have to put in the most work. Warning: the outcome is not going to be good. It appears that reality star Kody is preparing for additional organ damage. It's a knife to the heart this time. Savannah's brothers will walk her down the aisle on her wedding day, Janelle said in a recent interview with E! Adorable. But to be honest, I don't think Kody will have a fit about it. He hasn't exactly had Savannah on his list of favorites, so he's probably just happy that he won't have to pay for the big day. Besides, he really has to conserve his energies for Aries' wedding. He'll be lucky if any of the single OG kids bother to extend an invitation to him at this pace. Can you picture him sitting there, scratching his head, wondering why no one else seems startled, considering that he's been entirely ignoring Savannah for over 2 months since he was acting out around her mother? But believe me, this is all just one massive attack in his eyes. For it, he'll start a civil war. Oh, Kody, how he manages to be the archetypal example of a careless father and grandfather even in the best of circumstances. Really, he complained about Maddie's location on the opposite side of the nation in the last episode, as if that trivial fact prevented him from being the loving grandfather he professes to want to be. It made me wonder if Kody would still be out of luck if he truly wanted to be engaged in all of his children's and grandchildren's lives. Why? He simply could not manage to be actively involved in every one of his children's lives and expect them all to drop everything and come see him on vacations since he has so many children and, consequently, an excessive number of grandchildren. Indeed, I wish you luck on that. They are individuals with lives of their own. Their wives have families of their own, and Kody isn't exactly able to teleport to every family get-together in the nation. It's a logistical nightmare, really. Unless his children chose to make him a priority in their adult lives, anyone with that many children is destined to become a ghost of a father or grandfather. Warning: they are not aligned to make that happen. Do you recall those early seasons when the show attempted to make us believe that Kody was a fantastic father who was always present for his children? Funny as hell. I can't remember a single occasion where he invited any of his kids' families to join him. So how in the world does he think it will work now that they've all scattered across the country for the last couple of holidays? If it was that difficult for him to stay involved when everyone was living under the same roof, or at least in the same cul-de-sac, he had no idea who was coming over for the holidays and lost his mind about the Aram issue. What do you know? Perhaps he could have asked his kids, or better yet, invited them, to help unravel that little riddle. However, he's just Mia. It's true that grandparents don't have to be involved in their grandchildren's life all the time, but let's face it, periodically checking in and asking your children about the grandchildren would be highly appreciated. Of course, it would take work, and we all know how Kody feels about that. He could definitely get them to feel welcome enough to fill his house on holidays if he had a good relationship with them. When the kids can get together and spend time with their cousins, it's convenient for everyone. That he's not kind or hospitable enough to make that happen is rather telling. I need to brush up on the gossip because I'm completely behind on Kelty and sister wives star Robyn Brown's recent drama. Is it accurate to say that Mykelti has finally betrayed Robyn? There have been rumors of a significant fallout surrounding Garrison's funeral, and I'm curious to know exactly what transpired. It was terrible enough that Robyn refused to allow the children to attend Logan's wedding, but if she truly prevented them from going to Garrison's funeral, well, that's just plain cruel. I understand that Robyn said something really tone-deaf, something like, Garrison would still be alive if he had just reached out to Kody. 5. She has such outrageous chutzpah that it's almost amazing how well she can pass for empathy when she actually lacks it. It's astounding that she felt comfortable saying anything even somewhat offensive in those situations. Much respect to Mykelti for maintaining her composure rather than dragging Robyn through the mud. Mykelti was not amused by the rumors that Robyn had performed some fairly terrible acts during Garrison's burial. However, beyond those hints, the specifics are, at best, Unclear. I saw that Mykelti said something to the effect of, "Some of you have noticed that I'm not that close to Robyn and Dad anymore," in response to a customer. I want to be clear that something happened during the burial that naturally triggered the rift and that it was widely reported by bloggers, even though I don't want to discuss private matters. She retracted and denied saying anything when pressed for explanation, accusing the bloggers of misrepresenting her remarks. Come on, though. People already pointed out that she posted it from her own account on Patreon. She continued by accusing Tony of writing the ambiguous remark she made about hoping such an event would bring people together. But surprise, surprise, it didn't. All she would say was that. Who knows what the genuine story is, then? She seems to be backing down expertly, in my opinion. Janelle and Christine voiced their regret over losing their ties with the Tenders in one of their recent press tour interviews, and I still believe it was her, not Tony, who made that original comment. They talked about the old times that flooded their phones with pictures that reminded them of so many wonderful moments. I had to check their Instagram accounts right away to see how much information they had revealed about them. What caught my attention was how Saul was included in Janelle's first and second postings. She also often posted experiences with Dayton, and Ari Maddie had a ton of wonderful images of Saul when he was a baby and toddler. After binge-watching more than 10 seasons of the show, it's evident that the family was cohesive back then, so it's startling to learn that Robyn's children never felt part of the wider family dynamic. There seems to be some major indoctrination going on. The news that Robyn told her children they weren't welcome in the extended family was devastating. Not only has she taken those priceless family ties, additionally, she has ruined so many of their early memories that they find parental alienation to be extremely painful, particularly when it causes them to lose contact with their biological father and the Brown family. To be honest, this just depresses me greatly. Their children are being deprived of numerous deep connections by Kody and Robyn. Although some people claim that Ariella may be a handful, every time I see her, I can't help but imagine how much fun it would be for her to play with older brothers like Hunter, tossing her around and wrestling. I'm sure Saul would look up to his brothers too, and she seems like the kind of child who would thrive on that rough and tumble play, not the overly cautious kind Robyn might want her to be. It seems as though the closeness that formerly existed between Gwen and Aurora has entirely disappeared. Is it really worth destroying so many sibling ties over the parents' problems? About those old family pictures, I can only imagine what Robyn would say. I think it would be something like, "Yeah, that's a nice picture. But my kids weren't actually accepted. It's really quite depressing." Furthermore, Janelle Brown, the star of Sister Wives, showed no desire in becoming friends with Robyn Brown. I can only image the outcome of any chats they may have had. While he was busy making amends with his fourth wife, Kody did ask Janelle how she could be friends with Christine, but not with Robyn. Isn't that wealthy? Calling Janelle a relationship coward, but he's not even ready to make contact with his children who are alienated from him. Kody Janelle is genuinely a relationship coward. What better way to tell your remaining children, to their faces, that this person really knows how to boil my blood than to march over to them? Not only his money-hungry ones, but all of his offspring should be the center of the universe. The fourth, his dramatized victim for all time. In addition, I recently finished watching Sister Wives M.I. My Brother's Keeper. From seasons 19 episodes 3 and 4. And my goodness, it took me pausing the video several times to truly analyze Robyn's reactions. The woman was serious, almost like a masterclass in disdain directed directly at Kody. She was rolling her eyes like it was an Olympic sport during the snow fight, really. Not to mention how ridiculous her eye rolls and theatrical sighs were on game night. I half expected her to break into a dramatic monologue. Nevertheless, she would instantly put on a smile and act as though everything was great. It really is like seeing a badly staged play. Based on the findings of behavioral scientists, contempt is a strong indicator of divorce, so Kody may want to start packing. To be honest, Robyn is one of us because she even acknowledged that she was having trouble maintaining her respect for him. During game night, I also noticed that Robyn's children, especially the smaller ones, were observing her closely to gauge her response to Kody before determining how they would react. It appeared as though they were awaiting the activation of the Robyn reaction process. There is a sense of control in the household. The impression that they were all performing for a crowd is difficult to get rid of, and let's face it, their relationship appears to be going well enough that they're attempting to hold it together despite obviously feeling the strain of their absence. She would always wind up sobbing and stuttering like she had forgotten her lines when she and Kody got into a violent argument. It's a pleasant touch that their arguments always seem to end with a kiss. But I don't remember the other wives having the same romantic conclusion. Perhaps they ought to take notes. And does anyone else find it awkward when Robyn Brown, star of Sister Wives, talks about purity? Does this give anyone else the creeps? I mean, really? It sounded to me almost like she was making a suggestion that she and her ex-husband had crossed some very severe lines. Every time I see that scene again, I have to squirm. It seems strange. I was shocked to learn that she had later stated that she wasn't talking about her personal experience since, let's face it, I always assumed she was talking about herself. Am I the only one who felt this way back then? Why did she become so emotional and begin crying if that's the case? In my opinion, she tried to retract her statements after realizing how much she had divulged. Furthermore, I began to question if perhaps the child I was dating had stolen Robyn's purity because wasn't she pregnant when she got married? Or at least very early in her pregnancy. Wasn't even her former spouse. It was someone else. She went so far as to say that I adjusted my criteria after that. I'm kind of leaning toward the theory that her ex-husband wasn't her first experience because I can recall that portion rather well. What are your thoughts? I'm curious to hear other people's perspectives on this. But now, light bulb moment. I see that Robyn is actually saddened by all of the divorces, not because she wants to be Kody's only wife, but rather because she has never wanted to be the only wife. I feel like Robyn is about to lose it when it comes to dealing with him on her own. Her dream was to be the better wife, the favorite wife. Is it just me? Or does anyone else believe she will most likely leave him soon as well? After all, isn't it the tacit objective of polygamy? The wives are constantly in rivalry with one another, trying to get favor, trying to be the favorite, having more children, and acting as though it's a contest to get a little more resources and attention. Robyn found great pleasure in being the better, more attractive, and most favored wife in this marriage, believing she could do no wrong. In Kody's eyes, it was like an endless boost to her ego, but Robyn's lost that boost now that the other women realized Kody wasn't worth fighting for. Moreover, as the favored wife, she managed to secure a pretty sweet deal financially. However, that gravy train has run dry. Although she already caused significant financial harm to their household, which the other wives are unlikely to ever fully recover. In addition, is there any possibility that Sister Wives star Kody Brown will ever be rehabilitated and regain even a modicum of respect from the outside world? Apart from Robyn, of course, because loyalty, after all that's happened. Let's review the list. He left Isabel alone during her surgery, frequently caused his grown sons to cry, and assumed that his adult children would take care of their younger siblings by acting as father figures. And then there's how he disregards his own children and his young girls in favor of giving Robyn's children all of his attention, not even wanting their children to be close to him. And he simply keeps saying, as if that were an excuse, that his kids don't like the fact that he's not crazy about the mothers. Not to mention the way he refers to the other wives' homes as their own, even though they are the ones who pay the mortgage, and he only pays for the auto insurance. Sincerely, can this man's reputation ever genuinely be saved with a record like this? Furthermore, Kody Brown, the star of Sister Spouses, simply doesn't seem to understand that he left behind the majority of his children when he left his previous spouses for Robyn. It seems as though he may just make a new start without realizing the effects of his decisions. Robyn, whom he had introduced into the household, soon rose to prominence and eventually became the only wife. He then turned all of his attention to her children and their shared offspring, ignoring the older ones during their middle school and adolescent years. It makes sense why he and his children aren't close. In those early years, he effectively deserted them. Though I believe he is aware of it, he chooses not to care. He's made it quite evident that Robyn is his top focus. His care for his other children seems to be entwined with narcissism. He cares less about the relationships he's given up and more about how it makes him appear. If you are looking for more sister wives gossip, come back to TLC Flicks for all your updates. Bye, guys.